Welcome to the Endless Entrepreneurs YouTube channel. It has been quite a while since I've done a video. I hope that my sound is all right. I haven't used my mic or my video in quite a while. Internet looks a little choppy here. But if you're new to my channel, I am a reseller. I resell on eBay and Poshmark mainly. So invest in real estate, and I also work full time in the corporate world, primarily in finance. So I kind of juggle all three of those things. I have historically documented that on this channel. As my business has grown over the last, I don't know, several months, I've withdrawn from YouTube a little bit as I've been handling that growth, and just wanted to come back and come full circle here and hopefully provide some value. Hopefully everyone can hear that. Just let me know. Sorry, I'm adjusting all my stuff here. I'm a little out of sorts. Haven't made a video in quite a while. But looks like everyone, someone can just say you can hear me fine. It looks like you can. Hard to tell from the mic here. I'll let people start to filter in. This topic is pretty near and dear to me. Says the volume's good, nice. I'm just adjusting camera here. So YouTube Live has a whole new interface right now. So this is it's been that long trying to figure this out. So hopefully connection stays good. But as you can tell from the title, I just want to talk about growing an eBay business while working full time. I think that more of us are in that boat than aren't in the reselling community. I would say there are probably more part-time resellers than full-time, just from general consensus and the amount of people I've interacted with and talked to. I totally have a ton of respect for the people who are full-time. And sorry, I keep adjusting my camera here, guys. My setup just is like got to figure the setup up. But I just want to really talk through this topic. I've been focusing a ton this year on scaling. I just crossed 3,000 active listings. I have like 9,000 items in my inventory. I've been growing month over month. I've outsourced the majority of the stuff that I do in my business. So now I just focus on a couple things, and I'll talk through a lot of that. And I've learned a ton. I've probably made every mistake there is as I've scaled, trying to figure out how to balance it. So hopefully I can share some of that with you guys. I'm hoping to do some more videos on a regular basis. I really miss it. Have a lot of great conversations on Instagram with a lot of you, and just talking through. It's just been tough to keep up. As you scale, your time gets chewed up in ways that you never thought they would. And that's really what's happened to me. Is the first thing I had to cut out as I started growing was content creation, because that was really kind of icing on the cake for me. Like, I love doing it, I love interacting, but at the end of the day, to support the growth, I had to take a step back, and that was one of the things that went first for me. So trying to slowly work that back. I've been developing the systems. I'm pretty happy with where I'm at as I get towards the end of the year here, as you start reflecting on kind of how your year has gone. We're in quarter 4, which is, as a reseller, is like one of the most exciting times. Sales have been crazy. If you saw my post on Instagram, I've been shipping like 25, 30 things a day sometimes. I just shipped 45 things out the door yesterday because I was a day behind shipping on Halloween. So it's just been nuts, and in a really good way. I hope it's been good for you guys. I've seen a lot of new faces on Instagram. I creep in a little bit on some of the live chats when I'm at work. I'll jump on some YouTube lives, watch some other resellers. To see a lot of new people in the community, which is excellent. But yeah, so for those of you who knew, I'll just kind of circle back here. I've been selling for this has been a while since I made a video. I've been selling for pretty seriously for about 4.5, 5 years. Definitely was hobby seller till probably 2 years ago when I started my channel. And then I really started spending, I would call, full-time hours on my business, 30 to 40 hours a week, on top of my day job. I've kind of bounced around day jobs, trying to find things that fit and have a nice, I don't know how to say it. I guess there's nice like synergy to them. I was doing contract work. It was really awesome for this last year. That contract work evolved into a great opportunity with the company I was doing contract work for. So now I'm actually technically a full-time employee again, which is fine. It's a good fit, and provides a little bit of a nice balance that I didn't have before, so it's just good. I see a lot of people asking, where have I been? So that's what I'm trying to explain right now. But yeah, so over the last 4 years, it's kind of creeped up, and I really started selling in thrift stores only. Right, I was just like the rest of you. I was sourcing. You started with electronics, then I evolved into clothing. From clothing, I pretty much stuck with clothing because I'm a very systematized type person, and I like sticking with a niche and just kind of getting it down. It's easy to ship, easy to store, and that just kind of stuck for me. So as I've scaled and really started getting into bulk buying and things like that, I've stuck with clothing because it's what I know, it's what my systems can handle. It's kind of, you see the bins behind me, they're starting to creep into the house here. I'm comfortable with it and I know it the best. And then this last year was the first year I made the plunge. When it coming into 2018, I just got married early in the year. Really was getting stretched thin for time. I was listing 300 items a month on my own part-time. So that means I was sourcing 300 or more items from thrift stores every single month. I was listing them from start to finish every single month. And it just was taking an incredible amount of my time. And I just wasn't growing as fast as I wanted to grow. And I'm someone who I've always put pretty much 100% of the money out of my business I've reinvested back into it. So it was kind of a frustration January, February, March, just not seeing the growth that I really wanted. And so I made the plunge and I decided to just came up with a model on how I could contract out some work. I knew that I couldn't support like an employee with my capacity. Like I don't have time to oversee someone. I don't have time for someone to come to my house and work for, X amount of hours with them. Like my schedule doesn't work that way. So I kind of adopted this contractor model, and I hire photographers and I hire virtual assistants. That way, they're always invoicing me for their services. I can part out the stuff to them, and that's what I kind of made the plunge of that. And I was really lucky early on. I had two people who were resellers here locally in Charlotte who were just looking to get some extra capital to their business. So they started with me, and they were at the time I was giving them inventory, and they were photoing it, measuring it, uploading everything to Dropbox, and then I would draft listings from it. And then it evolved into me using InkFrog, which is a great software. I love it. I know some people aren't a big fan of it, but for the stage I'm at, it's like the perfect software. And so then I went from them, really just doing the photos and the measurements to doing the entire listing. So I would trade bins with them once a week. They would do the full process, photos, they did measurements, they did the listing on InkFrog, they'd bag and tag it, they'd give it back to me, and then I would just simply go into InkFrog, set the price, and set it live, and I would manage it from there. And so that started, I probably did 2.5, 3 months of that. And then again, I was just really fortunate. I had someone reach out to me on Instagram who was looking to do some kind of virtual assistant type work, had an awesome writing background, great skill set, and was looking just to kind of add into the work portfolio and ramp up on that. And so I kind of started trying some things where I had the contractors just do photos now. Instead of doing the full thing, they would just do photos of Dropbox, and then she was going and grabbing them, drafting lists in InkFrog, and then I was setting the prices and signing live. And that ended up being the absolute best model for me so far this year. It's been tons of trial and error. I've been so lucky with the people who have worked with me that honestly, they've piloted everything. They've given me feedback along the way. They've helped me tweak the processes to go smoother and smoother month over month. Still lots of things that can improve. But I've been really fortunate that they've kind of given me that feedback and helped me through it. And so right now, kind of future state or current state, we're here in November, getting ready to close out 2018. It's taken me roughly 6 months to get to the system I want. I have 2 suppliers I use on a regular basis. One I share with everyone on Instagram, which is Smashlots. I use those kind of as my filler orders. And then I have a different supplier liquidation company that I found myself, and it's been a fantastic relationship. It's actually a handshake relationship. It couldn't be going any better. I don't share that one, but that's definitely like probably 70% of the inventory I get, and the other 30% comes from Smashlots. And so I pretty much have 2 suppliers. I have 7 photographers, and I have what I would consider like a kind of a full-time VA who does like anywhere from pretty much her capacity right now. When I'm fully ramped up, like I'm in between orders right now, but she can crank out like 300 listings a week. So I was getting up like 1,200 listings a month when I was in my peak and had all the inventory in. I hit kind of a slow patch in grabbing stuff. So I had a little bit of a dead patch with this hurricane we had. That's a whole different topic, but I had a tree fall in my garage. I was keeping my inventory. It slowed, like I had like a full month slowdown because of that. So I'm just getting back to ramping up. And someone's talking about what my net profit is now that I'm doing this. I'll definitely get into that. I'll tell you guys right now, just to kind of set before I keep rambling here. I just feel like I haven't caught everyone up on where I've been. I feel bad for a lot of people who follow me and have supported me for a long time. I feel like this is a really good chance to catch you guys up. But the topics I haven't written down here, I'm going to talk about delegation. I'm going to talk about sourcing systems. I'm going to talk about margin because I think margin's huge. I think there's a lot to talk about right here as you scale. So I definitely will get to that, I promise. But those are the main things I will touch on. But, kind of circling back here. So I'm in November. I have 7 photographers. I have one, what I would consider like full-time type VA. I have another VA who does a smaller volume of work. And really what I've been having her do is tweak a lot of my old listings, cross list to Poshmark, things like that. I also just, I sell on 2 platforms now. I fully sell on eBay and Poshmark. I would say like 70% of my items on eBay are on Poshmark now. Still, like, the number keeps going up every month. So I've developed kind of a system to handle that and outsourced it. So that's kind of where I'm at, and that's what I hopefully have to offer and help you guys. I think that people get scared to make the plunge, and I think I look back now on why it took me so long to hire, and I think in my head I was trying to get to a volume as a reseller that like would replace my income like full time, and the problem is that to do that as a solo operation, like you kind of only get to a certain level with your time. And to get above that next level, you have to invest a bunch of money into it for a while to get the infrastructure. And so if you cap out at just trying to replace your income by yourself and then leave your job and then try to make a play, it's really hard to get over that next hump. Whereas if you get over that next hump and figure it out while you're working full time, I think it's a much, much, much better way to go. And I think that's why I think it's very possible to keep scaling the way I am while working full time. So anyways, I've kind of level set here, set the table for the first 10 minutes. I'll jump into really the meat of what I want to talk about here, and kind of what I've learned. So over the last, I'll just say since January, right? Since I started really scaling up, one of the main themes and things that I had to accept is that I can't do everything. It was a really hard pill to swallow when you go from being kind of like that solopreneur, as I think is kind of the term, which is honestly a lot of the fun of being a reseller, right? Like when you start off, like going to the thrift stores, the treasure hunt, doing it from start to finish, all the little steps, like it's enjoyable, like it's what makes it fun. But when you realize that you want to get to the next level, if that's what you want, and I don't think it's for everyone. So I should preface with, I don't think scaling is for everyone. I don't think everyone has the temperament for it. I don't think it'll be as fulfilling for everyone. I think for a lot of people, they just want to go out and, do that. They just want to go out and, I want to source by myself and list by myself, and it's great. And someone in the chat said, wow, you don't look run down anymore. Well, thank you. Yeah, it got to be a lot trying to juggle videos and sourcing and this and that. And I mean, it just really got to the point where even people on watching videos were like, man, like you look tired, you don't look healthy. And that was another big reason. I don't even have it written down, but that was a huge reason I made this plunge and started doing this. I mean, now just for perspective, the time I have, my holy wife's in the chat there, Shannon. She just said that's the CrossFit. So she's right. That is the CrossFit. So I even have time now, the way I'm business structured, like we do CrossFit 4 times a week. And I got to tell you, after a CrossFit workout, most of the time I'm down and out for the next hour, hour and a half, sometimes the rest of the night. I've been golfing twice a month, which for me, I had pretty much given up golf. I used to golf in college, and I pretty much had given it up because it just didn't fit in my schedule. And now I've got another friend who's got me going out twice a month. So I've gotten a lot more balance back. I've been traveling a lot more if you watch my Instagram. So I've gotten a lot more balance back, and my business is still growing. I actually I had my best month as a reseller last month. I'm going to have my best month again, probably in November. I mean, that's how it's been for me. So I'm very grateful, but hopefully that's encouragement that you can do this if you want to scale this way. But anyways, getting back to the delegation part, like that was the biggest unlock for me, was that I couldn't do everything, and that there are plenty of people who could do it just as good as I could, and honestly, probably better than me in some cases. When you're trying to just get through photos and get through things just to crank out listings, like my quality was going down with my own work throughout that. And I look back now and it's like, oh, and in the beginning it's tough. Like I've been teaching some photographers who've never done it before, and in the beginning the quality is a little shaky, but you just have to be patient, and you gotta document your systems. You gotta document what you want. You have to really lay out your expectation and not in like a demeaning way. Like I think a big part of what's helped me is I've always had decent soft skills. I used to work in fundraising. Like I'm used to interacting with people. It's something that comes natural to me. And so relaying feedback has always been a strong suit of mine. So I don't feel like I'm ever tearing someone down, or able to really just increase the quality in a productive way. And that was really what's helped to this point. And there's still a lot of quality control I need to do. There's still tons of improvement that can happen, but starting to delegate that stuff. And the first thing, like I said, is I delegated photos. I think that photos and measurements are probably like the easiest thing to delegate in the beginning, because I think it gives you a lot of options, right? You either can have someone come over on a Saturday and they do all the photos and you do all the measurements and you pay them hourly, and great. And that you just bought yourself a ton of time, and you can spend that time doing something else to grow your business, whether it be more sourcing, more listing, whatever. And then, as you get comfortable with that, maybe you have them do the photos and the measurements. And so just to explain my model, like I meet once a week. Sometimes I have people come to my house and pick up the stuff that I'm comfortable with, and they'll just swap it out while I'm gone during the day. But they'll take 2-3 bins, 100 items, 150 items, just depends what they want to do. And in a week, they'll knock those out. They'll photograph them. They have their own setups. And that's a part of the thing, is like they have to have their own setups. Like you can't loan them equipment, right? Like part of this contractor model is like they're invoicing you as a photographer for their services. You have to stick to that, right? Like their invoice has to reflect what they're doing for you. You can dictate what you expect from the arrangement, right? Like just like if you went to a print shop, you're like, here's my design, here's the shirt I want it on, this is what I want it to look like, this is how many I want, and this is when I want it, right? It's the same concept. It's these are the items I have, these are how I want them photographed, these are where I want them stored, this is the price I'm willing to pay. I want to be invoiced once a week, and I want to pick it up once a week. And so like that's the model that I've kind of adopted. But as I started to delegate, I was scaling quickly and I was getting really excited. And then I got to a point where I was like kind of flatlining from the scaling part, and I realized I was like, oh man, now I got to delegate something else now. Because what happened is I delegated that, my sales started to go up. And when my sales started to go up, I had to ship more. And I think that was one of the most unseen things that happened to me, was I didn't anticipate all of the time on the back end that was going to come from the accounting piece of it, from the packaging, the shipping, the consolidating of bins and the storage and inventory. That amount of time has been crazy for me. I mean, pretty much my schedule right now is I get up early, I'll read in the morning, go into work, come home, go to CrossFit, come home from CrossFit, go pull all of my things out of the garage or the shed that need to be shipped, ship them, jump on my computer for maybe a half hour, list a bunch of items, and then go to sleep. Like that's my schedule pretty much every day till the weekend. And the shipping has just gotten more and more. And so as that was happening, I had to start delegating more, which is where kind of the virtual assistant piece came in from the listing. And then when I started cross posting, so I started doing this whole model of listing everything on eBay, also on Poshmark, was started having the VA do that. And then the most recent thing that I had to delegate was I was taking care of every time something sold on eBay, I was taking it down on Poshmark and vice versa. And that was starting to chew up a half hour a night, 40 minutes a night sometimes. So now I have delegated and paid to have that done. One of the things I also realized was knowing your numbers as you scale is huge, right? Like you can't just start dumping all this money into paying people to do stuff if you don't understand how on a per item basis it's affecting your bottom line. And really the thing that I've done is I've kept everything per piece. So everything I pay for is per piece. So at the end of the day, I can quickly in my head do a calc like, all right, that bulk buy was $4.15 per item, including shipping for the however many items I bought. When those batch are being listed, I know my cost of goods right away. I can put it in the listing. I know how much it costs to get it photographed. I know how much it costs to get it listed on there. I know how much it costs to get it cross-listed. I know how much it costs to take it down when it's sold. And so I have all those right away. Like I can do that on the spot and tell you when an item sells, how much I made on it. And that's made life incredibly easy. And it's up front. It took a little bit to get that set up, to figure out how I was going to do that. But that's been great for me. So I highly recommend, as you start to scale anything or delegate anything, that you take a per piece rate approach in the beginning so that you can keep a handle on your profitability. Because I think what happens sometimes, like no doubt, if I had a warehouse and I was accepting truckloads and that was what I was doing, hourly is the way to go, right? Like it's much better. You can easily blend it into your margins and figure it out. You're getting more bang for your buck, hands down. But if you're working full time, you don't have a space for an employee to come work, you have to do this contractor model. The per piece, in my mind, is definitely the way to go. Someone just asked again about if you tried Smash Lots. Yeah, that's my secondary supplier I use. Jasper's been great to me. Every time I've needed orders, he's come through for me. He sent me, I owe him an unboxing video. He sent me some free inventory as a thank you for some of my business with him. And I told him I would do a little unboxing. So I'll have a video at some point of that. But he's been great. Just make sure when you contact him, reach out to Jasper because he kind of handles it personally. I will say if you're ordering it residentially, go with a liftgate, get the name of the place it's going to get shipped to, whatever the order is, and get the tracking number. So when it arrives at the facility, you can call and schedule the delivery yourself. Someone said they've had mixed reviews of them. Yeah, I only can speak to my experiences. I mean, I continue to use them. And again, I try to stick to, I don't really recommend anything I don't use. If that changes, you guys know, hopefully you know by now, I'll be pretty darn honest with you. But he's been good to me. I think one of the mixed reviews that's coming, and this is actually another thing I want to talk about, is when you get into sourcing, is you guys don't understand with bulk buys, like it's not like going to a thrift store where 100% of what you get you're going to sell. And I think that's another one. I think this is a good, perfect transition. That as you start to scale, sourcing becomes the next place that you can gain time back outside of like delegating. So like once you get past all the different items that you can delegate, and to me, like I break my business down really simply, right? Like you have photos, you have measurements, you have listings, you have packing, you have shipping, and then you have accounting on the back end. Like those are the only things you can delegate really. Outside of that, and then there's like sourcing and receiving. So receiving your items, sorting your items, and handling them before they get listed. I do that part for me still. So the next real logical spot to move to is sourcing. And for me, sourcing, I don't go to thrift stores anymore. I get asked all the time, and I miss it. I do. Like going to thrift stores is so fun, right? Going for that treasure hunt is fun. I'd love to get to a point where I could still go for 2 or 3 hours, hit one thrift store a week, just have that fun. It just doesn't make ROI like positive sense to me. Like it just doesn't make sense yet to do that. Hopefully I'll get to a point like I like with Rally Roots, like Ryan and Allie. I mean, they're definitely at this huge scaled point where it doesn't make sense to do that, but they love it and they still do it, and I definitely appreciate that. But so as you source history, I really want to dive into that. I think that's a perfect segue, in the chat talking about mixed reviews with, some bulk buyers and stuff. I think that expectations are everything when it comes to sourcing. And I want to think about it this way. This is how I've come to think about it. If I go to the thrift store and I spend an hour there, on a good day, I can pull in an hour 20 to 30 items that are quality. I probably bought them for $5, can sell them on average for 25 or 30. So it took me an hour. In 10 minutes right now, I can make a phone call. I can talk to someone. I can get, let's just say, for instance, 2 weeks ago, I received 2 pallets of 1,500 items. And that one specifically, that mix, I paid pretty much thrift store prices for it. So I get 1,500 items in 10 minutes delivered to my driveway on a liftgate, comes down, and I pull it out of my garage. Now I have 1,500 items, right? So I'm struggling with the calculator here, but 1,500 divided by 30, that's 50 hours at the thrift store to get that many items. I just did it in 10 minutes, and someone else brought that there, right? Now, some of those items are only going to sell for, let's just say for round numbers, I bought them for 5, just like thrift store. Some of them might only sell for 15. They're not all going to sell for 25, right? Some of them might sell for 10. Some of them might sell not at all. They're damaged. Most of the orders I get are 5% waste, sometimes up to 10, and I've had up to 10% waste is probably the worst I had. And then probably another 5 or 10, 20% are kind of under my ROI threshold. So now I'm like chewed into that like 30%. But then the other 70% are either at my like average sale price goal or way above it. So I saved 47 hours or whatever of sourcing time, got 1,500 items delivered to my door. Yeah, I had to throw a couple out. Yeah, some of them didn't meet it. Yeah, some of them have security tags, and I had to buy special security tag removers to get them off. But a lot of them are multi-quantity, so they take less time and resources to list. A lot of them sell for way more. I didn't have to do any work. It saved me so much time going there. And I think that's where the disconnect is when people are unhappy with some of the liquidators. And honestly, there are bad liquidators. Like, you really should do your research. You should definitely try out smaller quantities before you go bigger. I recommend meeting them in person if you can. I haven't met Jasper in person, but I've had some really good conversations with him. My other main liquidator I've met in person. Like, I've driven a U-Haul to his facility, seen his setup, like picked up my first load of inventory. Like, I highly recommend that. It's a good thing to do. But like, you have to accept that to scale, there are sacrifices to quality sometimes, right? You're not going to get 100. You don't have the time to quality check it, and neither do they, right? And this is a whole different video we can get into, is manifested versus unmanifested. I'll say right now on the record, I much prefer unmanifested because I'm not getting upcharged for the fact that they already went through it to tell me what it is and to quality check it. I much prefer to take that cost on myself of sorting, and buy it at a lower per unit price. Okay, so yeah, let's block you. Hold on. Gotta love the trolls in the chat. There you go. So yeah, that really comes like back to the sourcing thing. And for me, there's no reason for me to go to Thrift Store again. I mean, I have an 800 unit order that's going to arrive here probably Tuesday or Wednesday this week. My other supplier just called me and got a bunch of sports stuff in, another big load of great stuff that'll probably be coming later this month. So like, that's just where I'm at. And when I first started with Blue Lots, because someone had asked me on Instagram, and I'd done a review on Blue Lots, and I originally liked them because I was coming from that thrift store mentality of knowing what I had. And there are smaller quantities. I was just starting out, 100, 200 units. I knew exactly what I was getting, and they were perfect. Like, the quality is perfect. But then I realized I started using the liquidators. Like, you're getting upcharged a lot for them to unpack the pallet, quality check it, like document it in a spreadsheet. They're passing that cost along to you. So it's really up to you of, do I want to pay for them to do that? Or can I do it faster and cheaper on my end? Just send me it and I'll figure out what to do with it. And that's where I've really gotten to. And that's why the unmanifested part is the way it is for me. And honestly, like, the quality of stuff at Blue Lots is fantastic, but I'm getting that same quality stuff for like, in some cases, like 20% or like 80% off, like less than what they were charging me. So just some perspective. Hopefully that makes sense. I have so many topics that I've been writing down on my phone for months, topics to do videos, because I knew at some point I'd get back to doing videos. And so I have lots of things to discuss, and I like to keep my videos a half hour, hitting that wall here pretty quick. But I still have a little more to talk about. So that's sourcing, really. I'll just kind of leave that there. I'll probably do a deeper dive video on that some other time. And I'll definitely do Q&A at the end, like I usually do. And the last thing before we start talking about margins is systems. So systems are pretty much everything. Like, if you have good systems, good processes, and you execute well, you will do well with your business. If you don't, like, as you scale, you get exposed. I think that's the best way to say it. And it definitely happened to me. Like, as I scaled fast, like, I went from 1,400 active listings with like probably maybe 2,000 total items in multi-quantity to like 9,000 items with 3,300 listings in like 4 months. Like, just boom. And anywhere where my systems were not good, they just weren't well oiled, they weren't well documented, they weren't well tested, I got exposed really fast. Whether it be double selling items, whether it be running out of space to store things, whether it be having a lot of just dead space in my storage, whether it be making bad buying decisions, like, just there's all sorts of, I just got exposed, and those were where I had to focus on fixing. So that's really what I've been doing. Like, I said, 6 months fixing my systems. And I think, I used to do a lot of videos with Chris over at Daily Refinement, and I still chat with him. And one of the things I respect probably the most about him is he's so system oriented. I mean, when you can maximize every inch in your business, you can maximize every input, where it's all going. That allows you to keep taking that next step, that next chance, right, to get to that next level. And so, like, that's really where I'm at. Like, I feel like I'm quite a bit behind him in systems wise. I'm still just trying to figure out how to out of a detached garage a 12 by 10 shed I had built after the hurricane, and my house. Like, how do I manage continuing to grow like this? How do I manage adding 1,200 items a month minimum to my inventory where I'm only selling through like 400 a month, 450 a month? I think I did like 450 this last month. Obviously that sell-through is going to keep going up as my inventory goes up. But when you're adding more than you're selling consistently, you still have to provide the infrastructure and have the systems to handle it. So that's just kind of my piece on that, and definitely another detailed video on my systems and how I handle them. But yeah, those are really the three big areas: is the delegation, the sourcing, and the systems. So now to get to the big one that everyone wants to hear about is what happens to your margins, right? And again, this comes back to expectations. So I think the good Amazon sellers do this much better than we do as kind of eBay, Poshmark, like we who fulfill our own inventory view this much better, much different. And I think Amazon sellers handle it way better because we came from that 150% ROI world of going to a thrift store and just scoring every single time. And that's just not what happens as you scale. But the best example I can give is just like a simple one is, if I can sell 100 items at $10 a piece in the same time, that takes me to sell, 10 for the same profit, and by cost, but my costs remain the same, like all the costs are the same, then either scenario is fine. But if I can scale the one where I sell 100 items at $10 a piece and keep adding on and on and on, and my costs stay fixed, right? But I can do it in the same amount of time, then that way becomes better. Even though I might be making less, maybe I'm buying for 10, selling for 10 instead of buying for 10 and selling for 100. But if I can scale that in the same amount of time, right? The same dollars invested, the same amount of time, it just becomes worth it. And so that's kind of what's happening to me right now is my margin per item. I kept it above 40% for quite a while. I was really impressed with that. It was pretty high. This last month I calculated it and I was at like 35. I've been dumping a ton of money into outsourcing things though, and that's what happens. So you're going to take a hit on margins, and I expect them to keep going down. I mean, if I get to my ideal state, if I can operate at 10 to 12% like net margin per item, I would be very happy at that future state. I think I'm a long ways from that future state for sure. But I think that that's something that should be a reality, right? Is your margin, as you outsource and spend more money to get things listed, your margins per item will go down. But the reality is per month, I'm making more money than I was before, because even the simple math is that I did 8,400, I think, last month on eBay. I did a little over 2,000 on Poshmark. So I'm, well over 10,000 last month. And before I was selling like my high month were 4,000 or 5,000. Sometimes I think I had one $6,000 month on my own. And so if I'm only taking at that point, I was like 55% net margin. And now I'm down to like, 35, 40 on more than double it. It just makes sense to grow that way. I know I'm throwing a lot of numbers at you, and I probably should have broke that down in a spreadsheet like I normally do, but hopefully that makes sense conceptually. It's just like, it's all about what you can do in the time you have. And if you, at the end of the day, you're making more money, even if it's the margins are less per item, but you're making more money, that's all that really matters. And really is this, are you having fun with it? So for me, scaling is fun. I don't think it's fun for everyone. Like, I like managing people. Like, I like managing tasks. I like the project management side of it. I like the process improvement side of it. That stuff's fun to me. If that's not fun to you, then you won't enjoy doing it, and that's okay. Like, it's okay to stick to going and sourcing on Saturdays and flipping the things you find and having fun at garage sales. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I respect anyone who wants to hustle on the side. So. But I get so many questions on Instagram. One, like, where have I been? What am I doing? And I really appreciate that. People checking out, making sure I'm doing good. I get a lot of people saying, come back and do more content, talk about what I'm doing, talk about I'm scaling. And I just don't want people to think that. I think people were starting to think that I just didn't want to share anything because it was going so good. And that's not really the case. I just really didn't have time. Granted, I get the question all the time, who's your suppliers? Well, I'm not going to share my primary suppliers. I'm just not. I did the hard work messaging hundreds of liquidators to connect with the right one. That's what all of you should do as well. You definitely should have more than one supplier, which is why I have more than one that I use. That's probably the only question I won't answer. Everything else I pretty much am an open book about. So I will open up to Q&A. I've been rambling long enough. I appreciate you who have stuck around to listen. Hopefully this has been very helpful. Hopefully it's been encouraging, and if anything, hopefully it's a level set, whether it's something you want to do or even try. As you all know, you can hit me on Instagram at any time. It is the best way for me to reply to you is on Instagram. I get back to people the fastest that way. But yeah, shoot, go ahead. I'll take questions now if you guys want. If there's no questions, no big deal either. I have plenty of stuff to do tonight. But figure I'd open it up and just kind of open book. And they don't have to be about reselling. They can be about anything. I mean, I haven't been online in quite a long time. Brian said, it looks like you're in a good place and it's working well. Yeah. I mean, as far as like physically and mentally with my business, it's definitely the most enjoyable it's been pretty much ever. I bought my first pallet jack the other day. That was probably the exciting purchase. Really creepy experience. Bought it from a really sketchy place. I wouldn't have done it again if I knew where it was. It looks completely legit on Craigslist when I went. Got it for $100. So yeah, it was. But pallet jack's great though, because now I can maneuver. Before I was having literally they deliver on the lift gate, so I'd get less than a truckload. So LTL shipping, less than a truckload. They deliver the pallets to my driveway. I would tip the driver, and he would use his pallet jack and bring them in the garage. And then once they're in there, I pretty much had to unload them so I could move them and get them out. Now I have the pallet jack so I can move them around when they're full, get room. Someone asked, no more sport coats and suits. So that they're not really with this liquidators I'm using, they're not super accessible. I do, however, very randomly, and I may have more news on this. I don't want to jump the gun on it. But I think one contact got a huge liquidation from a suit company, and a decent branded one. And I think it's like 4,000 units. So I may not be able to handle that volume. If that happens, I may extend that to some people and offer pallets to be shipped directly to you. I will let you know right now it'll probably be like talking like a minute of like an $8,000 or $10,000 buy. But that may be a possibility. I literally just got a text like 2 days ago, so I may put some feelers out on Instagram if that comes to fruition. I'm still waiting to hear back. He's got to inspect it because it was a big order. Let's see. Someone else asked, did you find your liquidators just Google a list of them in your area or contact them? Yeah, so one of the things that was important to me, that's a great question. One of the really big things that was important, sorry, someone's trying to call me. One of the most important things for me was that it had to be local, because like Smashlots is great, but I can't control always where it's coming from. And so if I need something quickly, that's kind of a problem, which is why they're like a good filler order for me, is like I can do it in between, usually like a week and a half turnaround to get it to my doorstep. But I wanted one that was local. So I spent months. I mean, probably I started back in, I think it was March, just pretty much when I started messaging people. I'd message them if they had a Facebook page, I'd direct message them. I mean, there's a couple of Facebook groups you can jump into that are around wholesalers. I just started messaging anyone I could find on the internet. That was within like, I was doing like a 500-mile radius. And the one I found, thankfully, is not too bad. I can get something within like 3 days from them if I absolutely have to, shipped there. So it's pretty good. Yeah, someone said schedule some time for baby making too. Yeah, not quite yet. Yeah, Thor's quite a bit for us to handle right now. We're doing all right. Someone just said it's a tax deduction. Yeah, so is my rental property, so we don't have to worry. We got plenty of tax deductions. Oh, that's a good question. Someone said, do you need a business license? So in North Carolina here, I only can speak to our state law. So I have a tax ID I pay state sales tax on, that I collect and pay on. And I use my social security number to file my taxes as of now. I do pay for an LLC every single year. I haven't used it to file yet, but I basically pay, I think it's like $350. I don't know what it was. It's less than $500 a year. but just in case it ever becomes advantageous enough at the end of the year to use my LLC. And to use it, you have to have paid for it throughout the year. When it comes to like business licenses and stuff like that, it's really state by state. I haven't had any trouble with the setup I have now. I'm pretty tight with my CPA. We talk pretty frequently enough. He specializes in real estate, so this isn't necessarily his lane. I do a lot of the research on my own on this, but I would recommend if you can find someone who specializes in e-commerce, it's definitely the way to go. See any other questions rolling in? I don't see any yet, but those are good questions. I mean, taxes is another good one to talk about right now, guys. Like, it's tough, right? Quarter 4 gets nuts and you forget about it, but before you know it, you're all of a sudden going to be trying to figure out what the heck you sold this last year. So get your accounting in order. I know I'm getting ready to load a lot of like my profit and loss statements through October onto my my accountant's website. Going to have a meeting with him and talk through it. Right, you can pretty much forecast where you're going to be at now, and it gives you 2 months leeway to strategically plan if you want to make some purchases for your business, if you want to, look at some deductions or maybe some investments, whatever. Like, don't give any more money to the IRS than you have to, guys. I mean, that's the quickest way to make a lot of money is to not pay excessive amount of taxes. Like, I mean, you need to understand where the advantages are. Dora said she's just asking Jason about prop sales about me this week. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I need to connect with Jason. We actually haven't talked in quite a while. It's funny, we don't live far from each other either. But his business has been killing it. He's switched his model. He's absolutely crushing it. And I think time has been a rare commodity for both of us. No doubt. Someone just said taxes shutter. Yeah, taxes aren't fun, but I mean, if you proactively plan for them, they don't have to be stressful. I mean, another big reason I got into real estate was I realized from a long-term wealth building perspective, having real estate and reselling was a really good idea. Having a transactional business as your only wealth creation tool is really tough. I'll leave that there. There's plenty of other videos we can talk about that. Someone said, what's my goals for Q4? It's a great question. So most of you know I'm super detailed goal oriented, and this year it's been funny. I haven't really written down a lot of my goals. I pretty much just said to myself that I was going to go all in on building the machine. That's what I call it. I just wanted to go all in on building the infrastructure to handle large quantities of liquidation. I can't remember. I think it was my flight to San Diego earlier this year on vacation where I just was like, you know what? Like, over the next decade, liquidation is going to become more and more prevalent, cheaper and cheaper, and it's going to be even more resellable in e-commerce. I just need to focus right now on building the infrastructure so I can take advantage of it. So yeah, Thomas, it looks like you joined a little late here. If you're rewatching it again, I talk a lot about I only buy new tag stuff now, pretty much. So I only buy liquidation, no more used stuff. I'm still selling off a lot of my used stuff, but not really. I'm not sourcing it anymore. Although I did have a reseller contact me today about buying out the inventory, but they're not local, and it's really hard to do if they're not local. So yeah, so sorry, I didn't really answer the Q4 question. So for Q4, really my goal is I just want to beat my last year's Q4. I should cross $100,000 in sales this year. That was a big goal of mine. It was my goal last year, which I couldn't do on my own. I thought I could do it on my own. It's a tough one to crack. So that's definitely like a monetary goal. But really it's just to make sure that every month I'm listing more than I listed the month before, that I'm getting more efficient with my systems. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Another question here. Someone just asked, how's the day job ready to go full time? So day job's good. I don't think I'm anywhere close to ready to go full time. I'm still able to grow both or grow my business. So, I mean, it's one of those things where until I can't grow it anymore, I don't know that it makes monetary sense to make that plunge. So it'll always be a debate. It'll always be in my head. I mean, as anyone who's kind of entrepreneurial, it's always in your head. But yeah, I mean, no complaints, I guess is the best way to answer that. Someone just said, how many items you have listed? I'm up to 1270. It's a great question. I have, sorry, the app's being a little slow. I have 3,268 items actively listed, And let me see what that is, because I have tons of multi-quantity now. Internet's slow and I'm live streaming, sorry. I have 9,172 total items for a estimated value of $120,000. One of the reasons that's so high, just to full disclosure, is my last two shipments had a decent amount of Umbro soccer stuff, youth stuff. So I got those very, very, very cheap because they don't resell for a very high price. Their sell-through is pretty slow, but they're super tiny. They take up no space. They're replenishables basically. Soccer is pretty big all year round. I've been selling probably 4 or 5 of them. That's probably inflated. I've been selling probably 1 or 2 a day on average. I'll have some days where I sell 6 or 7. Families will come in and you can tell they're a family. They're buying like 3 different pairs of shorts and all that. I got socks, shin guards, and shorts basically. So a good, like, I would say a good 4,000 of those items is that. Just to be transparent on that. And those are like, I mean, I got them cheap and they'll probably average sell prices anywhere from like $10 to $15 shipped at most. Thanks, Adam. Got a fellow entrepreneur in the chat who is absolutely crushing it. Runs a pretty significant marketing operation in my hometown, and he is killing it. So appreciate the support, man. It's been a while since I did a video. It's nice to have you drop in. So I'm not seeing a ton of questions. Yeah, and speaking of scaling, he's got an employee now, and I'm guessing it's not gonna be too long before you got another one coming around. The way you're growing. All right, I don't see a ton more questions coming in. I'll wait another minute or so. The only other thing I want to talk about is capital, because I think that's another thing that people don't realize. Everyone thinks buying in bulk is great, and it's like, oh yeah, I want to do that. I don't want to thrift anymore. Like, you're pretty much, even for a smaller, you really want to bulk buy like a pallet, 500-600 items of clothing, like you pretty much got to be ready to shell out $4,000. So in most places it's not like, oh, I'll pay when I get it. It's like, wire me $4,000 and then I'll ship it to you plus shipping. I mean, that's pretty much how liquidation works. And then you gotta list it and sell it through before you can buy more. Or when you're building a machine where you need to keep people busy, you have to keep just buying inventory. So it becomes a really fast burn rate. I'm doing 2 orders a month. I'm spending a solid $10,000 plus on inventory a month. That's what's, and granted, I'm selling and making up for a lot of it. But that's what happens when you're growing, is you have to do that. And eventually it'll catch up and you'll be selling through and making 3-4 times what your burn rate is. But in the beginning, it's like, that's a part of that learning and growing process. And I get a lot of messages about, hey, I want to bulk buy, where should I get it from, blah, blah, blah. And I've even had some conversations where I was like, hey, I might have an opportunity to, split an order or have an order sent to you. Because that happens sometimes, where the agreement I have with my one supplier is I take all his apparel. That was how I landed him, was he does not like dealing with apparel. It's a small part of what he gets from his truckloads. He, word for word, said he hates selling to people who sell apparel. He says, we are the worst buyers in the world, which I probably agree with him. He said, we're just too picky. And so I told him, the only reason I landed him is I told him, I said, if I agree to take all of it, will you give me a break on price? I said, I'll take all of it, no questions asked, dispose of it, whatever. All you got to do is give me a piece count and send it. And so, there'll be opportunities where I'll be like, hey, I just can't handle all of it that's coming, so I'll try to offload some on another reseller. And they're like, yeah, I'll take 100 pieces. I'm like, taking 100 pieces is not even worth me splitting it up at what I'm burning and sending out there. So that's just something to consider too, if this is like the route you want to go with scaling, is, to get that price break and to get the economy of scale you want, you gotta be ready to spend some capital, which is why, again, to the title, working full-time and growing your business really allows you the flexibility to do that, right? It allows you the flexibility to pour your profit back in your business and just keep growing it. So another random fact, I think I spotted a very large eBay business here locally in a warehouse that I happened to be walking by the other day. I could see through the windows, and it was just stacked with shoes and all sorts of stuff. And I could see eBay branded boxes everywhere, USPS boxes everywhere, computer stations set up, photo stations set up. So I'm going to creepily stalk that place and try to connect with that person, because they definitely are at the next level. And if it was the cars, I think I saw a Porsche sitting outside of it, and a Maserati. And they looked like a massive operation. So hopefully I won't be too creepy when I roll up on them and try to introduce myself. But I've never been too bashful about introducing myself to anyone. So we shall see. All right, I've been rambling for almost an hour. I need to go relax. We're trying to do basically a double session. We did CrossFit tonight. We're going to do a group workout in the morning at 9. So I need to figure out if I can do this. So Thomas I appreciate that, Thomas, a lot. He basically just offered if I needed help with capital scale up, that he would be interested in partnering, and I do appreciate that a lot. I've had a couple offers like that as well, and I really do appreciate it. I've stayed away from that as long as I can do that, mostly just because I'm selfish and I want all the return for myself, if I'm being completely honest. But yeah, I appreciate that, and I'll definitely will write down your contact and make sure that I have it in case I get to that opportunity and it makes sense. So thank you. Thor has not made a guest appearance. Sorry. I will have to make sure he makes a guest appearance in a later video. All right, guys. Thank you so much for stopping in. I'm sorry for the long rant, and I'm sorry that it's been so long since I made a video. Hopefully I won't go as long before the next. That's the plan anyways. If you have more things after you watch this, if you're watching this for a second time and there's things that you want to know about, please drop them in the comments. It gives me ideas for content to keep going. I do have a list a mile long. I've been keeping track of for a couple months now. But after hearing this, if there's other things you want to hear about, you guys know I'm an open book for the most part. So I will definitely answer what I can. Have a great night, guys. Have an awesome weekend. Adam, thanks for stopping by, man. Appreciate it. Keep crushing down there. Well, up there, I should say. And I will talk to you guys later. Thank you.